500 different feelings I was feeling the moment I saw that tweet. One, I was like, is this real? Is this a joke? Like, am I actually living in a real world right now? What happened? Like, when did this come about? Like, it just came out of nowhere, and then just devastation came over. I mean, like, we were literally on a high just to go right back down to a low when we thought all this shoulder mess was over. So look, man, we have come here to talk about Deshaun Watson being out for the season. Now, this video right here is mainly just going to be the outlook of just the injury in itself. But I will have a part 2 out on how I think the Browns will go forward with this and what I think their success will be like. So you guys go check out this video. But this is part 1. I just want to talk about the main point of the injury, what I feel about Deshaun Watson, and how I think this team is affected by it. So here we go. Everyone, here's my main concern about Deshaun Watson's injury. It's not only about him being out this year, but when you're a quarterback and you have a shoulder injury, knowing how important the shoulder is to a passer in this league, I can't say that I'm not genuinely concerned about how Deshaun Watson will come back from this injury. We saw Cam Newton have a shoulder injury towards the end of his tenure in Carolina. He was never the same quarterback. I'm not saying this is going to happen with Deshaun Watson. I think he will somewhat rebound, but I do not think it is unreasonable to think, oh man, he's a quarterback. He's got a shoulder injury. We know how quarterbacks after shoulder surgery really move along in the history. How will Deshaun Watson look for the rest of his career? How will this alter the rest of his career? Now, I think Deshaun Watson is going to come back just fine. We may not ever see Deshaun Watson get better than he was at Houston. We may see him, which I think is more possible, get back to right where he was at in Houston. But will he be better than that? We don't know. I will hope to see that. I still do have high hopes for Deshaun Watson, and I think he's going to come back a good quarterback. But like I said, I do not think it is crazy to have the thought come upon your mind that, oh man, it's a shoulder injury. He's a quarterback. We know how quarterbacks and shoulder injuries go. How is Deshaun Watson going to look for the rest of his career? We cannot downplay this. Like, I just feel like we've waited so long for a ramp-up period. We're in this ramp-up period constant. First, he's suspended. Then he gets back, tries to knock the rust off. That's a ramp-up period into the next season. We get him back week 1 versus the Bengals. He plays well. Week 2, he doesn't play well versus the Steelers. He plays a really good game versus the Titans. We think we're about to get to the peak. Then we go back down to the injury. And then after the injury, we have to ramp up again after having a ramp up when the season started in week 1 and week 2 and coming off of the last season. Now, after that Tennessee game, you have to wait 6 or 5 weeks to ramp up and have him come back. He comes back in that Colts game. You hope there's a ramp-up progression. There's not. He's got to sit out a little bit more. Then you get in the Arizona game. Has a pretty good game. We think we're still ramping up, getting better week by week. Plays well in the second half. You think you're getting closer and closer to Deshaun Watson, being Deshaun Watson again. And the way it's been so far is every time we think we're about to get to the top, no matter if we're about to get a new season with knocked off rust, no matter if we're about to come off a high on the Titans game, no matter if we're about to come off a high on the Arizona and Ravens game and get Deshaun Watson back healthy, we come back down. This is how it's been, and it's mightily frustrating. It's not Deshaun Watson's fault. Injuries happen. It is just disappointing as a Browns fan at this point, and that's the outlook I really have on it. Every time we think we're about to get to the top with Deshaun Watson, we fall down. I still think this team has a lot of hopes, and I'll get to that in the next video. Believe it or not, I still have a lot of optimism for this Browns team. But as a Cleveland fan, you have to sit down and say, man, we've had enough of this unluckiness, man. When will it end? So what are we going to do with DTR as a starter now, with PJ Walker also being a backup? I'm going to get to that in the next video. I'm going to just say this. Do not count out the Browns because we have seen crazier things with backup QBs happen. But I will say this. Cleveland fans have 1,000% every right to be disappointed about this Deshaun Watson situation. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you one thing and one thing right now. I'm remaining optimistic, and in this next video, I'm going to tell you why. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.